Hey guys, Kristen here from Charles Blake Law. You're joining us again for part 2 of our Q&A video series. Today we are joined by Katie Harris. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, KJ. Nice to see you on this beautiful day.
Yes, I'm so glad you're outside.
Me too. Me too. It's been rough not coming into the office, but this is not so bad as a work from home view goes.
I know every time I do one of these video series, it's nice out, so I'm just going to keep doing them, and then hopefully the good weather stays around.
Definitely. I think you have to. I think you owe it to us in this difficult time.
Yes, I will. So we have lots of questions that have been submitted by our followers. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and background?
Sure. Yeah. I am an attorney here at the Boyk Law offices. I have worked here for about 2 years after starting out doing a couple different things. I'm a Toledo girl, not born actually, I guess, but raised. And I just, I love getting to practice law in this community that I've called home for essentially my entire life. I do some workers' comp at the firm, and as we've started getting some questions in on the coronavirus issues, I know that you and Chuck and I have been having some conversations about what that might look like going forward. So I've been looking into that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think now a lot of our calls have been related to the coronavirus and what that means for people who are still working and mandatory, non-essential versus essential. And so we received a lot of questions around workers' comp and coronavirus, and I'd love to get, your feedback on that and some advice so that we can put it out there for the people that answered those questions and make sure that they stay informed, and going forward, people know what their options are.
Sure, I'd be happy to help however I can.
Great. Well, our first question submitted is, I work for a lab at a hospital and they are forcing me to come to work every day. I see 10 plus patients a day, many that are in poor health. They are refusing to allow me to wear PPE. Do I have a case against my employer, or do I have to contract coronavirus for them to do anything for me?
So one of the things that I think we would be looking at this as would be as a workers' comp type claim. In Ohio, it's really hard to sue your employer for a regular personal injury kind of action, but I think that we would look at this as a workers' comp type thing. And if you can show that you developed an illness in the course and scope of doing your job duties, then you would be able to pursue that workers' comp claim against your employer. I know that there are a lot of issues out there with PPE accessibility and being denied to people. Obviously, that's a big issue that we want to keep people safe. But unfortunately, I think it's likely that we will see people get sick who have not been able to have the equipment that they maybe need. As far as whether you actually have to contract the coronavirus, I think that you would have to show that you had gotten some kind of illness. There wouldn't be a claim if there was just no illness, no injury, or anything. What I'm curious to see what will happen with is whether you would need to have a positive test result in order to pursue a claim, because as everybody knows, we just don't have widespread testing in Ohio. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but there would definitely have to be at least some level of illness, and I think the claim would probably be better if you can show that you're limiting your exposure to potential sources of the virus outside of going to and from work.
So basically, if they're just going to the store, or maybe they're just going to work and their spouse is doing the grocery shopping, they may have a better chance versus someone who's at the grocery store and running over here and running over there and has a potential to be exposed, many different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because no matter what, we are going to have to be able to show a link between being at work causing the illness. So that is going to be tricky with something like the coronavirus if somebody is one of those people who's not paying attention to the stay-at-home order, who's still having, tons of people over all the time, going out, having picnics or something like that with 10 people at the park, and not paying attention to those strict requirements. That is going to make it really hard to really prove that link between being at work and getting sick. And that's what we need for the case.
The next question is a little bit along those lines. It is, I'm forced to come into work and my coworker that sits next to me in the cubicle just tested positive for COVID-19. We are not an essential business, but my job was on the line, so I had to come in every day. If I end up getting coronavirus, can I hold my boss and company responsible? I go nowhere but to and from work, and I don't have great health insurance.
Yeah, so with that, especially that bit at the end about saying that they're not going anywhere other than to and from work, and they know that there's somebody who is a confirmed positive with COVID-19, I think that if they did get sick, there's a real possibility of a workers' comp claim there for sure. I do. I think it's got those things we talked about before where confirmed positive, only going to and from work, so we don't have to worry as much about that causation issue. And then if they wind up getting sick, I think there's a pretty strong case that they got it at. Definitely want to file a report of injury with their employer if they did develop it, because that's the first step toward beginning the whole workers' comp process.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. What other documentation should they be prepared with in the case that they do end up contracting COVID and, now they have to go to the hospital? Anything that they should be prepared for, paperwork?
Yeah, I think bottom line, the first thing people should be doing is taking care of their health and making sure they're getting the medical treatment that they can and that they need. I know that things are tricky right now as far as being able to get into doctors, but documentation is important. So if you are having COVID-19 symptoms, and I think we all know what those are at this point, but if you are having those upper respiratory symptoms, body aches, things like that, and believe that you have COVID-19, definitely make a call to your doctor, get it documented, find out what you're supposed to do for your health follow-up. And if you can't get tested, see if they can indicate that they think it's likely you have it or not. I'm not sure the willingness of doctors to be able to do that, but it's something where we know the virus is spreading and we know it's widely spread throughout the community at this point. See what your doctor is able to do in the way of documentation, and then you're going to want to file what's called a first report of injury, which is the first thing that you do. You fill out basic information about who you are, where you work, what you do, and what your injury is or your illness in this case, and then the date on which you think it first appeared.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question, this ties in nice to your follow-up here, is this person is currently working. It looks like they are a salaried employee. They were technically on their lunch break. They were running a laptop out to their coworker's home who's working remote. And while they were on their way to their coworker's home, they were rear-ended at a stoplight. They want to know, since technically they were on work time, should they file an injury report with their employer?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting case because it kind of goes into both areas of law that we do at our firm, because in addition to being rear-ended by somebody, which of course would be a regular auto accident, potential personal injury claim, if not on the clock exactly because they're salaried, but if they are in the course and scope of their employment while they're on this errand, then yes, that would also fall under the workers' comp umbrella. They could go ahead and file that first report of injury to get the workers' comp process started. They can also follow up on the PI side of things and open a claim against the insurance company for the person who rear-ended them. Now, I think that it's key in that case that there is, there's a direct link between what they're going to do and the workplace. They're taking a laptop out to somebody so that they can facilitate work from home. That clearly seems, at least based on what I know here, to fall under the umbrella of being in the course and scope of employment.
Okay. Our last question. So this looks like it's coming from a owner of a company. So different perspective here. So submission is his company is not considered an essential business by Ohio standards, but they still had employees coming into work because he didn't want to have to lay them off. So they were doing still some type of work. One of his employees slipped and fell on grease. Does she have a workers' comp claim, and what damages is he going to incur?
Assuming that his employee was working at the time that she slipped on grease, then yes, if she was injured in that incident, she would probably have a workers' comp claim. What that's going to look like from the employer perspective is it's going to be covered under either the Bureau of Workers' Compensation, or if they're self-insured for workers' comp, through that. And what'll wind up happening is there's a process to get certain injuries approved or denied under the claim, and whatever is determined to be linked to that injury at work, the medical care for that would be covered in the workers' comp claim. Also, some wage payments for time off of work. There could be some other things down the road, depending on how severely the person is injured, whether they have any kind of temporary or permanent disability as a result of it. But the primary things they'll be looking at is that it'll be likely a workers' comp claim that will cover the medical care that's related and some wage payments as well.
Okay. That was our questions related to workers' comp. I wanted to open it up to you and allow you to give any information or free advice about people that may find themselves in a workplace injury.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that the bottom line is, if you get hurt at work, you want to make sure everything is properly documented. You want to tell your employer. You don't want to let your employer bully you into not making a report or not going to the hospital. Unfortunately, we see that sometimes, and it's really disappointing to me every time we come across that. But you want to make sure that you are getting everything documented from the earliest possible opportunity. And I'll tell you, the workers' comp process can be very, very complicated. There are a ton of forms. Everything is very, very specific. And I really genuinely think that I can't imagine people trying to navigate it on their own. So in addition to making sure you're getting that first report of injury done, getting your medical care taken care of, I think you really, really do want to reach out to an attorney, just because it's so complex with those forms and everything. And we've got a great team here at our office. We're always happy to talk to people about any kind of questions they might have. Chuck and Mike have been doing workers' comp for forever. Andrea and I do some now as well. And of course, we've got Cynthia and Kelly on our team helping them out. And I think Cynthia probably knows everything there is to know about workers' comp, so she's an incredibly valuable resource for us and our clients there.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree with that. Well, great. Thank you so much. I don't want to keep you too long. Obviously, it's a gorgeous day, and I'm sure you want to get your work done and get out and be able to enjoy what's left of today. So thank you very much. And I will hopefully see you again on this video series.
I know, and hopefully in person too. I miss you.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's get back to work.
Seriously. All right. Thanks, KJ.
Thanks. Have a good one.